All right, ladies and germs. This episode is all about Unit 3, where we discuss about different types of environmental pollution as well as policies to control those pollutions. Okay, so before starting this episode, since it's June 5th, I wish everyone a happy Environmental Day. Okay, all right, let's move into the episode. So, what is an environmental pollution? Okay. Environmental pollution is the introduction of harmful substances. Okay, so we have to remember it's the introduction of harmful substances or any products into the environment which causes adverse change. Adverse means the most dangerous change in the air, water, soil, or living organisms. Okay, it's a very simple definition of what is uh, environmental pollution. So let's see one by one what are the different types of pollution that we usually come across. Okay, so the most familiar and obviously well heard of pollution is air pollution. Okay, so the definition goes like this: an air pollution is the contamination of air by harmful substances like gases, dust, and smoke that affect humans, animals, as well as plants. So usually we there are mainly two types of air pollutants. Okay, so we categorize them in a two separate way. One is primary pollutants, the other one is secondary pollutants. So primary pollutants are the pollutants which are directly released into the air. Okay, for example, carbon, sulfur oxide, nitric oxide, or any particulate matter. Particulate means particles here. Okay, any matter which contain very tiny small particles. Okay, particulate matters, chlorofluorocarbons, and methane. So usually these primary pollutants come from car exhausts or any vehicles exhaust, factory emissions, and even also from volcanic eruptions. So next comes the secondary pollutants. Okay, secondary pollutants are formed by reactions between primary as well primary pollutants. Okay, for this a good example is ground level ozone and smog. Okay, so what are the main causes that we are aware of this air pollution is uh, burning of fossil fuels, which releases carbon dioxide, carbon oxide, and sulfur dioxide, and vehicles which emits nitrogen oxide, nitric oxide, carbon oxide, or hydrocarbons, and some agriculture activities which includes uh, releasing ammonia, use of pesticides and fertilizers, and industries and factories are one of the major contributors for air pollutions since they release a lot of chemicals, gases, and smoke. Mining also causes air pollution by releasing dust as well as chemicals. So we all are well aware of the effects of air pollution. Usually, health issue mainly asthma, cancer, heart and lung diseases, and global warming. Okay, which is caused by greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases increase the temperature of the surrounding, which also increases the global temperature, which causes global warming. And the other effect is ozone layer depletion, which increases UV rays, causing skin and eye issues, harm to animals, polluted air affects habitats, and aquatic life as well. So, what are the control measures that we can take to control the air pollution? So, if you need an in detailed explanation of all this, I would highly recommend you to read the note. So, this is just, I'll trying my level best to skim the syllabus here. Okay, so control measures can be using a public transport, recycle and reuse materials, avoiding plastic bags and burning waste. Okay, use fans instead of air conditioners. Air conditioners do release chlorofluorocarbons, so install filters in chimneys. By installing the filters in chimneys, they will filter out the particulate matters, the dust particles. Okay, and avoid the heavy smoke producing crackers or fireworks, reduce the use of chemicals, and yes, obviously we have to plant more trees. So next comes the water pollution. Okay, so by definition water pollution happens when harmful substances contaminate water bodies like rivers, lakes, as well as oceans. We have to remember the contaminate, the word contamination. It can be applied in every single pollution here. Okay, so usually the main causes for this water pollution is agrochemicals. Agro here stands for agriculture. Okay, agricultural chemicals. So fertilizers and pesticides when washed into the water, or improper sewage disposal, when untreated waste dumped into the rivers. Mining, okay, when we dig the surface, if the rain occurs, and because of the digged out soil, this the soil and pollutants will flow through the water and join some water bodies and industrial waste. Okay, they releases chemicals, heat, and toxins from factories. Burning fossil fuels releases harmful ash and chemicals and animal waste. This also adds bacteria to the water as well as organic pollutants. We can call them organic pollutants, but it will also cause health effects if we use for drinking purpose. Okay, so there are some effects, familiar effects, which you are already aware of by water pollutions. The number one is unsafe drinking water. Okay, there is a lack of clean water will be there. Several diseases, it will cause several diseases, mainly cholera, dysentery, and hepatitis. Child mortality, as I said in the class, the childrens have quite underdeveloped immune system at their age. Okay, so it can cause a child mortality. Okay, and damage to aquatic life, obviously, which affects fish and marine ecosystem. Food chain disruptions, toxins pass through the organisms. Ecosystem destruction destroys balance in aquatic system. So to avoid all this, what are the control measures that we can take? Okay? Proper waste disposal. One, treat sewage water and industrial waste. Okay, we have to build a separate plant for this, to treat this industrial waste. Use natural fertilizers and pesticides. Obviously, we have to reduce the plastic usage. Clean rivers and beaches. Save water and reuse it. So next comes soil pollution. Okay, a soil pollution is the presence of harmful chemicals in the soil that affects its quality and make it unfit for plants and organisms. Like I said in the class, soil is the stuff of life. It is the place where all the living things emerge. Okay, even the smallest bacteria come from the soil, and we, as humans, we are very much dependent on the soil for food, for trees, and lot of stuff. Okay, it is a stuff of life, soil, and and protecting it is our duty. So here are some causes. Okay, of soil pollution. Right? Inorganic fertilizers, which acidify and degrade the quality of the soil. Industrial waste, for example, dumped chemicals and metals. Heavy metals like lead, mercury make soil more toxic. Mining and manufacturing, which leads to soil degradation. Pesticides and insecticides, which also harms the fertility of the soil. Plastic and e-waste. Okay, e-waste is nothing but electronic waste like batteries, and plastic leach chemicals. Okay, acid rains. Acid rain also causes the nutrients loss in the soil. Okay, by washing it away. So obviously, it has its own adverse effects on human health as well, which can cause skin or respiratory issues. On plants, it reduces their growth, okay, and erode the soil and reduce the quality of the soil as well. And as well as an ecosystem, it causes a loss of biodiversity, harm to organisms in soil. Okay, so solutions. We are aware of the solutions like use less chemical fertilizers, promote reforestation or afforestation, recycle waste materials, use natural compost or manure. Okay, and next come noise pollution. Okay, simple simply we have to say this as the unwanted or loud sounds that disturb humans and animal life are called noise pollution. Okay, so the major causes of this noise pollutions are from industries because of heavy machineries, generators, and equipment. Social events which were conducted with the help of loud music, parties, and religious events. Transportations, cars, planes, trains, and horns. Horns are the worst. Construction work, drilling, digging, and building, and several household gadgets. Although they not contribute much to this noise pollution, but they still produce some degree of noise. For example, TV, mixer, and vacuum cleaner. Okay. So effects. What are the major effects of this noise pollution? Okay, mainly hearing loss. Okay, it can damage your eardrum and sleep disturbance. Okay, sleep disturbance, which is also one of the adverse effect where we take it for granted. Okay, sleeping for 6 hours or or a disturbed sleep is not a good thing. Okay, it's not a good thing for anyone. It is one of the best natural therapies that we have. Okay, which also, and sound pollution, which also causes stress and anxiety, poor concentrations, and also affects the animal communication and habitat. Okay, so control measures that we can take is use silencers in machines and vehicles, restrict loudspeakers and noise after certain hours, use soundproofing in buildings, and plant trees to block noise. I have said in the class that even the plants, the trees, the leaves on the trees will helps to reduce the noise pollution in the environment. So next comes the unique, the most dangerous, I would say, nuclear hazards. Okay, let's talk about nuclear pollution here. So before talking about the nuclear pollution, we need to understand what are the radiations. Okay, radiations are the waves of energy that spread all around in the environment. These radiations are useful as well as harmful. Okay, depends on which type of radiation it is. Okay, so nuclear pollution. So let's talk about nuclear pollution. The nuclear pollution, which is also known as the radioactive or radiation pollution, which refers to the release of radioactive substances into the environment, leading to contamination of air, water, as well as soil. So usually these radioactive pollution is caused because of mining. Okay, as I have said before, the radioactive elements are found inside the earth. Okay, so to extract them, we have to do the mining. So when we mine these radioactive materials, the emissions of radiations might take place if we don't handle them properly. Okay, handling and processing of radioactive materials, if we don't do it properly, which also causes radioactive pollution and nuclear explosions. The good example is Hiroshima and Nagasaki for this. Okay, even the use of radioactive reactions to generate nuclear energy and use of radiation in machines, for example, X-rays. And research also say that microwave, cell phones, radio transmitters, wireless device, computers, and other common commodities of today's life are also the source of various types of radiation. So the main effects of these radiations can be it can damage genetic genes. Okay, yeah, genetic damage can be caused by radiations. The other damage, which includes burns, eye cataract, cancer of bone, thyroid, lungs, and skin cancer, soil infertility, and crop damage. So there are some preventive measures that we can take before any nuclear disaster or nuclear pollution happens, and there are some preventive remedial measures that we can take if unfortunately any nuclear pollution occurs. Okay, so before nuclear pollution, we can here are some preventative measures that we can take. Okay, building nuclear plants far from city, use strong safety system, store nuclear waste safely underground, check and repair machines regularly, train workers to handle radioactive materials, make emergency plans, use modern technology to avoid leaks, and follow government safety rules. So, nuclear pollution remedial measures after the incident occurs can be move people away from the dangerous area, clean up the polluted land, water, and building, give medical help to affected people, test the area of radiation, throw away radioactive items safely, don't eat food or drink water from that area, and keep checking the area for many years. Okay. So, it's hard to dispose these things also, which is a very tough job. Okay. So So next comes the solid waste. Okay. Solid waste refers to unwanted solid materials generated from human activities in homes, industries, or commercial areas. Okay, there are different categories which are based on the origin and the contents as well as their hazard potential. So origin, it can be domestic, industrial, commercial, institutional, or anything from constructional areas. Contents, okay, what are the contents that it has? Organic, plastic, metal, paper, or glass. Okay, hazardous potential, okay, based on their toxicity, flammable, radioactive, or infectious. So, what is solid waste management here. Okay, it is a process of collecting, treating, and disposing of solid waste. Simply. Okay, so there are mainly two types of solid waste. Okay, biodegradable as well as non-biodegradable. So biodegradable stands for decomposes naturally. Biodegradable solid waste will decomposes naturally. Okay, these are the materials that decomposes easily through the action of bacteria, fungi, and other living organism. The good example for biodegradable waste, solid waste is food waste, leaves, paper, and non-biodegradable. Okay, what are these? These types of waste cannot be easily handled. Okay, these does not compose easily. It cannot be broken down by naturally occurring agents and continue existing in the surface of the earth for a large number of years. Okay, most of the inorganic substances are non-biodegradable. The good example for this are glass, plastic, metals, and etc. So usually, where are these solid waste come from? What are the sources that these things come from? Mainly municipal waste, like from homes, offices, schools, and hospitals, industrial waste, toxic materials comes on land, mining waste, okay, through dust, rock, toxic metals, and any harmful soil materials, fertilizer waste, pesticides and biocides, e-waste, as well as hospital waste. These are the main sources of solid waste. Okay. So, how do we manage this solid waste? Here are some measures that we can take, that we are taking actually to control this solid waste. The first management system or management method is landfilling, where waste is layered with soil in low laying areas, where we dump the waste in a laying area and we cover the layer with the soil. Then again, we dump the waste and again with the soil. We make layers of soil on the waste. So next comes biogas generation. Okay. By organic waste, we can convert that fuel using microbes. This organic waste can be converted into biogas as well with the help of microbes. Vermicomposting. Vermicomposting here means worms. Okay. The worms break down the organic waste into rich manure. Okay. They do the process. Dumping into the sea, solid waste, it is not an ideal thing to do, but the coastal areas, the cities near the coastal line do these things. Okay, they dump the solid waste into the city, which is costly as well as polluting. And yes, recycling. Yeah, instead of using this harmful substances, it's better we should consider using this you know recycling materials. Okay. Incineration is other option that we have, which also causes some degree of air pollution, which is incineration means burning the waste to produce electricity, where we also produce electricity, but we also to some degree create some air pollution. So next concept is all about the Environmental Protection Act. Okay, so we have finished the different types of pollution. Now let's see what is this Environmental Pollution Act. So yeah, people and government are least aware of this environmental since mid 1980s. Okay, so when the Bhopal gas tragedy happened in 1984, this environmental protection enacted after that. Okay, in 1986, after the Bhopal gas tragedy, which happened in 1984. Okay, so the background of this article is it is around based on Article 253 of IC, Indian Constitution, which contains around four papers and 26 different sections. The main objectives and features of this article is enforce decision of the UN 1972 conference, create government authority to regulate environmental issues, coordinate various agencies involved in environmental protection, frame rules and laws to safeguard the environment, impose punishment for harming the environment. Okay, it can penalty which can go up to 5 years of imprisonment or a fine up to 1 lakh, or it can be both. So the key provisions of this act is launch and manage national programs for environmental protection, set environmental quality standards for emission and discharge limits, restrict the location of industries to avoid environmental damage, allow government inspections, equipment testing, and sample collection, coordinate existing environmental laws and responsible agencies, permit citizens to file complaints in court for violation of the Act. Okay. So next comes Air. Okay. Air Act, Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. The purpose of this is enacted by Indian Parliament to prevent, control, and reduce the air pollution. The main purpose. And the objectives are obviously prevent, control, and abate air pollution, conduct research on causes and effects of this air pollution, spread public awareness, establish central and state pollution control boards. So the yeah, according to the section 2A, the key definition is what are air pollutant means any solid, liquid, or gaseous substance that harms humans, animals, plants, properties, or the environment. So the major provisions of this Air Act is Section 4. There are three major provisions that we have to remember. The one is Section 4, which says if a water pollution board exists in a state, it also handles air pollution. Section 21, which says no person or industry may release air pollutants above prescribed limits. Section 28, which says pollution control of officers can collect air samples for testing. So, what are the powers and functions that the board has is they can advise government on air quality improvement, implement nationwide programs for air pollution control, provide technical help to state boards, and collect and share information on air pollution. The penalties is failure to follow the directions may lead to 1 year of imprisonment, can be extended to 6 years with a daily fine of around 5,000 rupees. So this is about Air Act. Next comes Water Act. Okay. Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. The purpose is to prevent and control water pollution and maintain restoring the wholesomeness of water. The objectives are prevent and control pollution in water bodies, maintain or restore the purity of water, establish central and state pollution control boards, and the main key features are boards can inspect, sample, and monitor water quality. Industries must seek permission before discharging the pollutants, control effluents entering streams, rivers, wells, as well as lakes. So the important provisions of this act is that we have to remember is state boards can set standards for effluent discharge. Boards have the authority to prosecute polluting entities. Offenders may face fines and imprisonment for violation. And next comes Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So the main purpose of this act is to protect the wild animals, birds, and plant species in India to ensure environmental and ecological security. Okay. The main objectives and the key features of this Wildlife Protection Act is to protect the wild animals and plants, prohibit hunting of specified species, which also includes trapping and capturing, which is prohibited as well, control trade in commerce in wildlife and related products, established wildlife sanctuaries, national parks, licensing system for possessions, sale, or transfer of certain species, applicable across India except J&K, which had its own law. Maybe I think they might change those things. So here are some different schedules for these things. Okay, here Schedule 1 and Part 2 of 2 says that highest production, especially for the animals, okay, which are very strictly guarded, okay. Offenses carry the strict penalties as well. This schedule is applicable for example for tiger, blue whales, and cheetah. The next Schedule 3 and 4, which says this moderate protection for species which are also endangered species. Penalties compared to previous schedule is quietly less. Schedule 5, which says no protection. Animals which can be hunted. Okay, the examples are rats, crows, and mice. Schedule 6, which says plant protection. Cultivation and planting of listed species are prohibited. Next come Forest Conservation Act 1980. Okay, the purpose of this act is enacted by the Parliament of India to ensure the conservation of forests and prevent deforestation across the country. So based on the article 51A of G, the Constitution. Okay, it is a duty of every Indian citizen to protect and improve the environment, including the forest. The main objectives are protect forests, including flora and fauna and ecological diversity, prevent loss of biodiversity, stop conversing of forest land for agriculture, grazing, or commercial purpose. So the main key features of this thing is central government holds the power to enforce this act. Forest land cannot be used for non-forest purpose without prior approval from the central government. Acts as a balance between conservation and development and includes minorities for violation. Allows regulated limited use of forest land when absolutely necessary. So here's some agreements, some few agreements, few protocols that happened related to the protection of environment. So first one is Montreal Protocol. Okay, see in 1970, scientists found that chemicals used in air conditioners and refrigerators were damaging the ozone layer. In 1985, a big hole was discovered in the ozone layer over Antarctica. This hole allowed dangerous UV radiations to reach the Earth. Okay, so what about this product protocol is? It was signed on 16th of September 1987. The main goal is to stop the production and import of ozone depletion substances, aims to reduce their levels in the atmosphere and protect the ozone layer. UNIDO, which stands for United Nations Industrial Development Organizations, became an implementing agency in 1992, signed by 197 countries. Okay, now, all countries were supported, universal support. So, impact on industries. What happened is big reduction in use of ozone depletion substances in farming, consumer goods, and industries. Helped fight climate change since many of these substances are greenhouse gases too. Ozone layer is expected to fully recover by 2050. The next protocol is the Kyoto Protocol, which happened in Japan, okay, which is an international agreement that called for industrialized nations to significantly reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. So Kyoto Protocol says that it was adopted in 11th of December 97, but came into force in 16th of February 2005, okay, after a very long duration of time. In this parties involved is 192 countries, and the main purpose is to reduce carbon dioxide and greenhouse gas emission. And this is one of the first international agreement with legally binding rules for developed countries to cut greenhouse gas emissions. The targeted gases are mainly six greenhouse gases. Okay, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, and sulfur hexafluoride. So important points that we have to remember when it comes to this Kyoto Protocol is only developed countries are required to reduce emissions. Developing countries have no legal obligations but are encouraged to help. It was one of the major steps in global climate change policy. The next is Convention on Biological Diversity, which is also known as CBD, which held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Okay, open for signature on 5th June 1992 and came into force in 29th of December 93. So the main goal is the conservation of biodiversity, sustainable use of biodiversity, fair sharing of benefits from genetic resources. So supplementary agreements are Cartagena Protocol and Nagoya Protocol, which is not irrelevant for this syllabus. So let's move further. Okay, what are the key features of this is this legally binding treaty. 196 countries have signed, almost all countries. Increase global awareness of biodiversity issues, sets general rules for protecting biodiversity. Next is nature reserves. A nature reserve is a protected area to preserve plants and animals, okay, usually smaller than national parks. The main purpose is to protect natural life. The main importance of natural resources is to help in conserving ecosystems, protect endangered species, key tool in environmental conservation. The next and the last concept is tribal population in India. So, who are these tribal people? Okay, they are also called as, okay, also known as Adivasis. Okay, tribes are self-contained groups, usually outside the mainstream caste system. Like I said before, They are not bind to any caste system. Okay, they are self-contained group with similar values, similar beliefs. The population has been gradually growing since 91. It was 6.7 crores in 91 and 8.4 crores in 2001. 2011 census says that it is 10.4 crores, okay, which is around 8.6% of total population. The main activities are these are tribal people. The whole tribal economy runs on these main activities, okay, mainly hunting, fishing, and food gathering, shifting agriculture, moving from one area to another. Lumbering, okay, lumbering is a process of cutting down the trees for wood, and settled farming and animal rearing. The very familiar types, familiar tribes that we can find in our country is Raji tribe, which are Raji tribe group people which are found in Uttar Pradesh as well as Uttarakhand, Kuki, which are found in West Bengal, and Siji tribes, which we usually find in Karnataka as well. All right, this is all about Unit 3, environmental pollution as well as policies. Thank you for making it to the end.